Good morning, students. Today we will discuss different stereochemical systems of nomenclature. Uh, we have different type of systems like RS system, EZ system, DL system for naming the stereoisomers. And they are generally what? They are simply the prefix that we used to put before the IUPAC name of the stereoisomer. We know that the stereoisomers generally they have the similar IUPAC name, but what makes them different? How will you differentiate them? This type of nomenclature is actually we are using to differentiate two isomers. Like maybe you remember about the cis-trans system, cis and trans isomer. So in that case, the IUPAC name is same, but we are using that cis and trans prefix just to have an idea that the configuration of the group on two carbon atom is in the cis fashion or trans fashion. Similarly, we have some standard stereochemical systems for giving names to the stereoisomers. So we will discuss them one by one. The first we will discuss is DL convention for designating the stereochemical configuration. So DL system is what? It is the convention that is used to designate the configurations of chiral carbons of naturally occurring compounds. Like maybe if you remember, I gave you example of D glucose and L glucose. So in the case of naturally occurring compounds, they are basically the mixture of two different isomers. So to each of the enantiomer we are giving this designation D and L, and to use it we view the molecule of interest according to the following rules. So now we will discuss what are the rules to assign the D and L prefix to a particular stereoisomer. How we will give these names. So first of all, an example is given here. This is 2-chlorobutane. Chlorine is attached to the second carbon atom, and we have total of 4 carbons here. Then this is 1-chloro-2-methyl butane. Chlorine is on the first carbon, and on the second we have a methyl group in the butane molecule. And the third one is 3-chloro-3-methyl-1-butene. So 3-chloro-3-methyl, both chloro and methyl are on the same carbon, and we have a double bond between the carbon 1 and carbon 2. So you first of all you have to arrange your molecule like this. What is the first rule? Main carbon chain is oriented vertically like this. Maybe you can see the representation here. We have vertically arranged the carbon atoms in our molecule. And what is the process of arranging it? The lowest number carbon at the top. So you will start the numbering from the top of the molecule. So first number will be given to the topmost carbon, and that follows until you number all the carbon atoms. So the numbering is actually used for this purpose. It should be according to the IUPAC rules. And what are the IUPAC rules for numbering the carbon chain? We know that a substituent that should be given priority, right? So if you remember the carboxylic acid, this should be given the highest priority, followed by the carbonyl group. So whenever they are present in organic compound, you will start the numbering from these groups, right? If suppose the COOH group is present here, then you will give first number to the carbon of carboxylic acid. So whenever you are assigning the number to the carbon chain, that should be strictly according to the IUPAC rule. And the thing is, you will arrange the carbon chain vertically. And suppose if carboxylic acid group is present, then since you have to give the lowest number to the topmost carbon, so you will write the COOH on the top of the molecule. So that you will do, and you will arrange, you will orient the main carbon chain according to the given rules. So this is the first step. Then what next? The structure must be arranged at the particular chiral carbon whose configuration is to be assigned. So the horizontal bonds to the carbon extend towards you, and the vertical bonds extend away from you. If you remember this method of representation, the vertical line, they are actually away from the viewer, and horizontal line This is towards the viewer. So we are arranging the groups like this, and this is the carbon atom around which we need to give the configuration. So now you will convert that vertical chain like this. So suppose if I have to see the configuration on the carbon atom number 2. So I have aligned the carbon chain like this. Now see, because the carboxylic acid is to be given the highest priority, so it will be given number 1 and it is placed on the top. And at the second carbon atom, we are going to check the behavior. So this is actually represented by the intersection of these two lines. So this intersection point of intersection is representing your carbon number 2. And because this carbon is containing all 4 different groups, so it is what? It is a chiral carbon. Chiral carbon is, we discussed that it is the carbon atom having 4 different groups on 4 different valencies. So now this carbon number 2 is the place where you are going to find out the orientation. So now see, the arrangement will be seen to be precisely as the same as the convention of projection formulas. Now you see how you will convert it into a projection formula. This is your carbon atom number 2. The vertical bonds, as I told you, the vertical bonds, they are actually they are extend away from you, and the horizontal, they are towards you. So we have changed this formula accordingly. And now what are the possibility? If you can see, the possibility is either the CH3 that is attached here, it is in this position, and you have NH2 here. And if you see the mirror image of this molecule, then you will get the enantiomer, right? So how will you get the enantiomer? Now whenever you are drawing the mirror image of a molecule, right, so the group which is towards the mirror, you will write it first, and then which is away from the mirror, you will draw it afterwards. So the CH3 which is looking here, it will be now at this place, and the NH2 is now at this place. So now you can see that you have got 2 non-superimposable mirror image. If you put this structure over this structure, they will not superimpose each other. In the place of NH2, you are getting CH3, and in the place of CH3, you are getting NH2. So in this manner, we have got 2 enantiomers. And what is this molecule? This is the alanine. Alanine is an amino acid. So this is very simple amino acid showing the optical activity, and we have obtained the 2 enantiomers of the alanine. Now what will we do? The relative positions of the substituent on the horizontal bond at the chiral center are examined. So the substituent which are on the horizontal bond, which are the horizontal bond? These are NH2 and H. You will examine the substituent. If the main substituent is left of the main chain, you will get L configuration, and if the substituent is on the right, you will get a D configuration. So this is the rule. Now, if you look at the molecule carefully, we are only concerned with the group attached on the horizontal line. So horizontal line, we have NH2. Now, if the NH2 group, it is on the left hand position, like in this enantiomer, NH2 is on the left hand side, left hand side of the viewer. So this will be what? This will be the L enantiomer. And if your molecule, in the molecule, this NH2 group with which we are concerned, this NH2 group is present on the right side of the viewer, then you will assign it a D. So this is the L enantiomer, and this one is the D enantiomer. So this is the method by which we assign the D and DLN configuration to an optically active molecule. So first what you do, you arrange your carbon chain, then according to the IUPAC rule, you give numbers to the chain. Now you will find out on which carbon atom you want to assign this D and L configuration. Then you will convert the structure like this, and you will take the vertical line for the groups which are, vertical line is for the groups which are away from us, and horizontal line which containing the groups which is towards us, towards the viewer. So in this manner, you convert it like this formula, and you get the mirror image of the enantiomer thus obtained. And now if the group present on the horizontal line is on the left side, you give it L configuration, and if the group is on the right side, you give it D configuration. So the problem arises for you when you have to identify the direction of the group with respect to which group we should assign the DLL configuration, right? So you are not considering the CH3 here. because it is part of the carbon chain, so it is on the vertical line, right? So therefore you should remember that we are concerned only with the group on the horizontal line, that is the substituent group. This was the simple case of alanine. Now take another example. Two configurations. Yes, the alanine is explained again here. So the two configurations of the amino acid alanine would be represented, and their projections are shown in the 15 and 16 diagram. The carboxylic carbon is placed at the carbon number 1 position and at the top. Now substituent at the chiral carbon is connected to the horizontal bonds, amino and hydrogen. The amino substituent is taken to be the main substituent, and this is the key point. You have to decide which one is your main substituent, and if it is in the left side you will give it a L to the molecular structure, and if it is on the right side you will give it a D. So what are the amino acids? They are the naturally occurring compounds. So like we have discussed that this type of configuration is used to assign the structures of naturally occurring compound. So similar to the amino acids, this DNL configuration can also be given to different carbohydrates like glucose, fructose, mannose, gallose, lactose. There are so many carbohydrates, simple monosaccharides. They are known to us, and we can assign this type of configuration to them as well. Like I told you, we know D-glucose and L-glucose. So in case of D-glucose on the carbon number 5, you're assigning the optical activity. And if the OH is on the left side, you call it L. And if the OH on the carbon 5 is on the right side, you call it a D. That is another example. Then an example of the glyceraldehyde is taken here. So it has one chiral carbon bonded to the aldehyde function. Now, like I told you, the IUPAC nomenclature says that when you are numbering the carbon chain, highest priority you will give to the carboxylic acid, and then after carboxylic acid you will give priority to the aldehyde. So now the numbering will start from the aldehydic group. This is the formula of glyceraldehyde, and you will write the carbon chain like this in this vertical sequence, and you will write the aldehydic group first because it has to be given the number 1. Now in the glyceraldehyde we have these molecules, these atoms involved, and when you number them 1, 2, 3, you will get this formula. Now we have to find out the configuration as carbon number 2. It has one chiral atom, which is carbon number 2, bonded to the aldehyde functional group, hydrogen, hydroxyl, and hydroxymethyl. This is your hydroxymethyl group. So what happens here? The carbon number 2 becomes chiral in nature, because all the 4 valencies of carbon, they contain different groups. So when the carbon is containing 4 different groups on its 4 valency, you will get a chiral carbon atom. And now you can get the 2 enantiomers from this structure. So let us write the structure. So like I told you, when you have a group on the vertical line, it is away from us. So this CH2OH, it is on the vertical line, it is away from us. And you can see that in the dash form of a bond. So this dash form of bond is showing you hashed bond. We discussed the wedge hashed representation. So this wedge is showing that OH is towards the viewer and it is on the horizontal line. And this wedge hatch shaped bond is showing that CH2OH is away from the viewer. So in this manner, now you will decide which one is your main substituent. Like I told you, you will take the group which is present on the horizontal line. So on the horizontal line, we have this OH present. Okay, this is not the part of your carbon chain. So now this will be your main substituent, and you will see the position of this OH group in the molecule, whether it is in the left hand side or in the right hand side. So let us convert the formula into this type of structure, and now we will draw an imaginary mirror, and now we will draw the mirror image of the molecule. So when you are drawing the mirror image, so this CH2OH will come first, and now it is present exactly to the opposite position, to its earlier position, exactly opposite to that. So now the configuration has been drawn, and you get the 2 enantiomers which are mirror image of each other. Now if you try to put the structure of this enantiomer over this molecule, what will happen? The H is present at the place of CH2OH. So they are non-superimposable. Now I will see what is my main substituent. So this is the OH group and it is on the right hand side. So I will assign a D prefix to this configuration, and this OH is in the left hand side. So I will assign this L to this configuration. So in this manner, I have taken into consideration the location of the OH here. So uh, once you have identified your main substituent, then it becomes really easy to assign the D and L configuration to the enantiomers. That was the D and L configuration. Now let us see the absolute configuration, which is known as R and S. And these R and S sequence rule, they are really very important, because when you will give the E and Z nomenclature, then also the similar rules will came. Uh, you have to know these rules also. So first of all, let us see what are the RS rules. So when you are naming the enantiomer of a compound, what is enantiomer? I told you that when a compound is optically active, when a compound is containing a chiral carbon atom. So the chiral carbon atom, which is having four different groups attached to it, the relative configuration of these all four groups, you have to decide. So you call it an enantiomer, and when you are using the RS sequence rule, the names must include the handedness of the molecule. Handedness is whether it is a right-handed molecule or right-handed molecule. So this is a very layman kind of term, handedness. So I maybe you remember in the previous lecture I have shown you the diagram of a hand. So you see that when you are putting your hand before the mirror, you get a non-superimposable mirror image. So generally, when we are explaining the chirality, we are taking the example of a hand. So in the RS configurations, RS sequence rule, basically you are assigning the absolute configuration to the molecule. You are not seeing any the configuration related to anything, right? In the like in the previous convention, in the D and L convention, I told you that whether the group is on the left hand side or on the right hand side. So there you are comparing only the one group. You are identifying only one substituent, but when you are giving the absolute configuration, you will take in account all the groups present on the chiral carbon atom, right? In the previous method, we were concerned only with the main substituent, if it is present on the left hand side or on the right hand side. But there are other three substituents also on the similar chiral carbon, and we have to consider them also. So when you are considering all the four substituent, and then you are assigning the structure of the molecule, then you call it absolute configuration. And this is done by RS nomenclature. So the method of unambiguously assigning the handedness of the molecule was given by three chemists, and their names were R.S. Khan, T. Ingold, and V. Prelog. These three chemists, they together gave this RS nomenclature system, and therefore sometimes we also call it as Khan Ingold Prelog rules. These three chemists, they together discovered these rules, and in addition to the Kahn and Gold system, there are two other ways of experimentally determining the absolute configuration of an enantiomer. So what are the experimental methods? Let us look at them first. First, we have the X-ray diffraction analysis, by which you can assign the handedness of the molecule. So there is no correlation between the sign of the rotation and structure of the particular enantiomer. That is a very important point, that we were considering that if it is rotating in the left hand side, then we will give it an L, and if it is rotating the light in the right hand side, we will assign it a D. So that convention was actually destroyed by this Kahn and Gold rule system, and they said that there is no correlation actually between the sign of the rotation and structure of the particular enantiomer. So the experimental method could be the X-ray diffraction studies, which with the help of which you can establish the handedness in the molecule. Then second method is the chemical correlation method, with the molecules whose structure has already been determined by via X-ray diffraction. You can compare your unknown molecular structure with a structure that has already been assigned with the handedness by X-ray diffraction study. So these are the two experimental methods, but practically, whenever we are assigning these R and S configuration to the molecule. Generally, we are adopting the non-laboratory methods, right? So it is beneficial to focus on the RS system, and here the sign of the optical rotation, although different for the two enantiomers of a chiral molecule at the same temperature, cannot be used to establish absolute configuration of the enantiomer. So if the minus sign is written in the rotation, you are seeing the rotation by polarimeter and you are getting the rotation in the minus sign, then you will say that yes, this is the L configuration. So that is not possible and there is no correlation with that. So when you are assigning the absolute configuration, once again I am telling you, we are considering all the four groups on the carbon atom. So you have to see what is the relative significance, what is their sequence in the molecule, and then you assign the handedness. So what happens, why this observation came, because the sign of the optical rotation for a particular enantiomer, it may change when the temperature changes. So suppose you have changed the temperature, then the same sample which was earlier rotating the light in the left hand side in the minus direction, now it start rotating the light in the right hand side in the plus direction. So it is not related to the structure of the enantiomer. Rather, many other factors are involved. So we should not consider only the rotation of the light, only the sign of the optical rotation. So now what we are doing in this system, we are assigning the stereo center and we are naming that stereo center is R or S. Okay. So how we do that? Suppose this carbon is my stereo center in a molecule. Now it has four different groups attached to it, and all these four different groups, we will assign the priorities to this group. So the substituent having the highest priority will be given number one. Then the second highest priority will be given number two. Then the followed by number three and number four. Number four will be your substituent having the least priority. So when you have assigned these numbers to all the four substituent present on the carbon atom, now you will check in which direction they are showing it. So if you see an anti-clockwise direction like this is the anti-clockwise, right? So if your substituent they are in the anti-clockwise direction, one two three, this is the anti-clockwise direction, so you assign the configuration S. And if you see the clockwise direction like this, one two three, so this is clockwise direction, so you assign it R. So in this manner, you give the absolute configuration of the molecule, and the S is what, left-handedness, and R is the right-handedness. So now you have taken all the four substituent of the chiral carbon atom, and you are considering all of them, their relative location in the 3D structure of the molecule. So in this picture, what you're seeing, seeing a curved arrow, which is drawn from the highest priority, that is one substituent, to the lowest priority, substituent 4. And if the arrow points in a counterclockwise direction, that is in the left, when leaving the 12 o'clock position, when you are maybe you are aware of this anti-clockwise direction, it is just in the opposite direction in which your clock runs. So in the opposite direction of your clock, the configuration at the stereo center, you call it as S. S is sinister, in the Latin means left. And if the arrow it points clockwise in the same direction of the clock, so you call it R. Your stereo center is having the R configuration, which is called rectus, and in Latin it means right. So these both two words, sinister and rectus, they are the Latin words. Sinister is the left and rectus is right, and the R or S is then added as a prefix in parenthesis to the name of enantiomer of your interest. So you simply put an R or S before the name of your enantiomer. Now the most important thing about the RS nomenclature is how you assign the priority to the substituent. Because if you are wrong at that point, if you have given the erroneous priority to the substituent, then obviously you will see a wrong rotation, you will draw a wrong arrow, and then you will assign a wrong priority and wrong nomenclature. So you should consider the rules. What are the rules by which we can assign the priorities to all the four substituents present on the carbon atom? Let us look at them. The rule number one. First is, You have to examine at the atoms directly attached to the stereo center of the compound. So only the four groups on your stereo center. It could be a carbon number 3, it could be a carbon number 4, 5. So you have to look at that carbon only, and rest all valencies they will be their substituents. So you have to consider only those substituents which are directly attached to the stereo center. This is the very basic rule. Then a substituent with higher atomic number take precedence over a substituent with lower atomic number. So higher atomic number substituent, like in case of the halogens, suppose if iodine is attached, so it will be given preference, right, as compared to the chlorine or fluorine. So higher atomic number you will give the priority, lower atomic number you will give the least priority. So, if you consider this, hydrogen will be the lowest possible priority substituent. Whenever hydrogen is present in the on your stereo center, if hydrogen is present as a substituent, it will get the lowest priority. So it will always be at the number 4 because it has the lowest atomic number. And when you are dealing with the isotopes, the atom with the higher atomic mass receives the higher priority. So suppose if I have we have two isomers of chlorine, right? So if chlorine 35 is attached and fluorine 37 is attached, we have two isomers of chlorine. So first priority will be given to the chlorine 37 and then chlorine 35. This is the rule. Like in case of the hydrogen, if you have hydrogen, deuterium and tritium, all three isomers of the hydrogen, so you will give the first priority to the tritium, then second will be given to the deuterium, and last will be to the hydrogen itself. So when you are visualizing the molecule, the lowest priority substituent should always point away from the viewer. So you will do what? When you have assigned the when you have assigned the priority, the lowest priority, that is 4, the substituent which is given the 4 number, that will be away from the viewer. This is the convention. This is done. You are visualizing the molecule in that way, and that is denoted by a dashed line. So now, yes. After that, what we do? We draw an arrow from the highest priority to the second highest priority atom to the third highest priority. So 1, 2, 3, and then we will see the what type of rotation is observed. So if it is in the counterclockwise direction, it is S, and if it is in the clockwise direction, you call it R. So R in enantiomer and S in enantiomer. Thereby, we can assign them the absolute configuration. So remember that the wedges indicate coming towards the viewer, which is towards us, facing us, and dashes they indicate the substituent pointing away from the viewer. So on other part of the molecule. If you are representing a dash, so it is on the other part of the molecule. So if you are looking at a molecule particularly and the lowest priority atom is actually on the not on the dash line, so you have to change it, and you have to change the position, and you have to show the atom on the molecule, the atom which is having the least priority, you have to show it with the help of a dash line, even if it is not there in the original problem. What is the second rule now? So suppose if you have two substituents and they have equal rank, then what will you do? You will proceed along the two substituent chain until there is a point of difference. First, we will determine which of the chain has the first connection to the atom with the highest priority, that is the highest atomic number. So if the chain has the highest priority, you will give it a higher number. And if the chains are similar, then what will you do? You will proceed down the chain until a point of difference. For example, an example is given here. Suppose we have an ethyl substituent which takes priority over a methyl substituent. And why is it so? Because the molecular weight of ethyl will be greater than the methyl. Now at the connectivity of the stereo center, both have carbon atoms which are equal in rank. Now what we will do? Going down the chain, a methyl has only hydrogen atoms attached to it, whereas the ethyl has another carbon atom. So the carbon atom on the ethyl is the first point of difference, and it has a higher atomic number than the hydrogen. So therefore, ethyl will take the priority over the methyl. So this is the method by which we will assign the priority to similar point of connections. So Like you can see, if the methyl is attached to the stereogenic center with the help of a carbon, and if ethyl is attached, so when you move to the another carbon, another atom attached directly, so it will be a carbon in case of the ethyl, and in case of methyl, it will be a hydrogen. So the first point of difference, now you will see the molecular weight. So the carbon is having more molecular weight as compared to hydrogen. So therefore, ethyl will be given priority as compared to the methyl group. Then you have rule number three. If a chain is connected to the same kind of atom twice or thrice, we are moving inside the chain, but again and again you are getting the similar type of atoms attached. So what you will do? Check to see if the atom it is connected to has a greater atomic number than any of the atoms that are completing the chain is connected to. So now you will check the atomic numbers and the chain with having atoms with greater atomic number. Now you will give it the priority. If none of the atoms connected to the competing chains at the same point has a greater atomic number, then what will you do? So the chain bonded to the same atom multiple times has the greater priority. So multiple bond, the chain containing multiple bond will be given priority in this case. And one of the atoms connected to the competing chain has a higher atomic number, then the chain has the higher priority. So the first thing that you will see is the molecular weight of that, and after that, if they are similar, then you will consider all these rules. So an example is given here. This is one methyl ethyl substituent take precedence over an ethyl substituent. So one methyl, and this is one methyl ethyl. So it will get a higher priority as compared to the ethyl. Why is it so? Because this carbon is attached to your stereogenic center, and this carbon is attached to the stereogenic center. When you will move inside the chain, you will get the similar CH3, right? But on the other side, you have a CH3 group attached to the ethyl group. So now this ethyl will be given preference because the carbon atom is having higher molecular weight as compared to the hydrogen at the similar position. So connected to the first carbon atom, ethyl only has one other carbon, whereas the one methyl ethyl has two carbon atoms attached to the first. So this is the first point of difference, and therefore the one methyl ethyl ranks, they are it ranks higher in the priority than the ethyl. So I hope these rules are getting clear to you. Now let us move forward. Now we have another example here. Suppose you have a bromine substituent at the ethyl group. Now what will you do? Now this one methyl ethyl will not be given priority, right? It will get a lower priority as compared to this because the carbon is having lower molecular weight as compared to bromine here. So this substituent will be given lower priority and this will be getting higher priority. So after all the substituents, they are prioritized in the correct manner. Now you can name and label the molecule as R or S. So put the lowest priority substituent in the back, denoted by the dash line. Then proceed from 1 to 3. So you are not considering the fourth substituent here. It is in the back of the molecule, and you are seeing only the relative configuration of 1, 2, 3. So if 1, 2, 3 is in this direction, you will give it S. R, and if it is in the anti-clockwise direction like this 1, 2, 3, you will give it anti-clockwise or S symbol. So clockwise R, counterclockwise it is S. R is rectus, S is sinister. After discussing this, the last type of system we have is EDAT system for naming alkenes. And we know that in the case of alkenes, we are seeing the geometrical isomers, right? We have seen that the carbon-carbon double bond, whenever it is present, the two substituent on each of the carbon. If the similar substituent are present on the same side, we call it a cis isomer. And if the similar substituent, they are on the opposite direction of on the two carbon atom, you call it a trans isomer. So this is the traditional system of naming such alkenes. But there are several cases when your cis-trans system is not applicable. And in that case, it was really essential to establish an independent system to assign the prefixes to such geometrical isomer. So this system, EZ system, is given by the IUPAC, and it is very much similar to the RS system, and it works on the priority rules, those rules which we have just discussed. The priority rules for the RS system, they also work for the EZ system, and in this manner you can see whether your alkene, that is the carbon-carbon double bond, whether it is having the cis or trans configuration. So in the IUPAC system, we call it EZ system. And if the atom or the substituent, which is having the similar priority, they are on the lower priority, if they are on the same side, you call it a cis, or it is called E. And if they are on the opposite direction, you call it Z. So this is the EZ system, and the priority rules are what? They are the Kahn-Ingold Prelog priority rules, which we have just discussed. So what you do? First of all, we analyze the two groups at each end of the double bond. So this is my carbon-carbon double bond, right? And if the two methyls they are on the similar side, we call it cis-2-butene. And if the two methyls they are on the opposite direction, you call it trans-2-butene. So, but in the case of IUPAC nomenclature, you have to give the E and Z prefix to them. So now we will look at the CIP rules, Kahn-Ingold Prelog priority rules. So now we will see whether the higher priority groups at one end of the double bond and higher priority group at the other end of the double bond are on the same side. So if they are on the same side, you call it Zusiman, that is together, and if they are on the opposite side, you call it antigen, that is opposite. Zusiman is together and antigen is opposite. Zusiman is Z, antigen is E, antigen is when they are in the opposite direction. So if the groups of a higher priority, so here in the molecule you can see the methyl group will be having the greater priority as compared to the hydrogen, right? So you will assign 1 to this and 2 to this. Now 2 and 2 they are on the same side, 1 and 1 they are on the same side. So what is this? This is the Zusiman, similar substituent present on the similar side. So Z2-butene. This is the name given to it. And in the second case, you can see if you give the priority, so this methyl again will get the 1 priority and hydrogen will be given 2. Methyl will get the first priority and hydrogen will be given 2. So now you see what are the configurations. So you have 1 and 2, 1 and 2 on the carbon atoms. On the similar side, you have different priorities. So this will be your E2-butene, that is antigen. So it is showing the relative configuration of the substituents present in the alkene molecule. So how we does that? Let us look at the procedure. So first we start with the left hand structure, that is the cis isomer that we have just seen. We are discussing about the cis isomer. So on the carbon number 2, the left end of the double bond, the two atoms attached to the double bond are C and H, and by the CIP priority rules, C is having the higher priority than H because it is having higher atomic number. Now you will look at the carbon number 3, that is on the right end of the double bond. So again you will see that we have carbon and hydrogen attached, and now the carbon will get a higher priority. So we see that higher priority group is down at the C2 and down at the C3. And since the two priority groups are on the same side of the double bond, they are Zusiman, that is together. So you call it Z2-butene. And now if you look at the right hand structure, that is the trans isomer. So in this case, again you will assign the priority to the groups. So the priority group is down on the left end of the double bond and up on the right end of the double bond. So they are on the two different sides. The two priority groups are on the opposite sides of the double bond. So they are antigen opposite, and you call it E2-butene. So this E and Z system, it always works even when your cis trans phase. So if you look at the examples carefully, here in the alkene molecule, you have all the 4 different substituents. Now, how will you assign the cis and trans isomer? Because all the groups, they are different. So now you cannot say which one is the cis and which one is the trans isomer. But if you see in this isomer, we have bromine and fluorine on one side, iodine and chlorine on one side. And here bromo and chloro on one side, iodo, fluoro on one side. So how you will assign the configuration in such case? You cannot give it a cis or trans. So what we will do now, we will follow the CIP rules. And what are the CIP rules? You will give the priority according to the molecular weight, right? So this is the advantage of the EZ system, that it always works even when your cis trans fails. So now how will I give priority? This will be given, iodine will be given 1, then 2, then 3 and 4, right? According to their molecular weight, we will give them a priority, and here you get a 1, 2, 3, 4. So when you are assigning the 4, the substituent with the least priority is away from the pure, right? So it is apparent that the two structures, they are having distinct chemicals, and it is impossible to name that as them as cis or trans. So now we will use the EZ system, and when you are assigning the priority according to the atomic number, like I told you, you will give iodine first, then bromine second, then chlorine third, and fluorine fourth. So when the two groups are on the similar side, having the similar priority, you call it a Z, right? And when they are in the opposite side, you call it E. So look at the structure again. So this is the priority 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So when you have the two groups of the highest priority on the similar side, this will be your Z. And if 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 4 are together, so the highest priority groups are on the other side in the opposite direction. So this is your E. So in this manner, you can name the isomers according to their structure as the E and Z isomers. Then this E and Z will work, but it may not agree with the cis and trans. So sometimes you get confused. Like in this structure, you can see we have two methyl groups on the similar side, and you will say what? This is cis or trans. You will call it a cis molecule because two methyl groups are present on the same side. But in the EZ system, how will you give name to it? So you see, if you assign the priority to this molecule, first priority will be given to bromine, then second to the methyl, third to the methyl, and fourth will be the hydrogen. So now, because the bromine, which is having the highest priority, and hydrogen having the least priority, they are on the same side. So you call it what? This will be antigen, that is E isomer. Methyl are on the opposite side, and therefore the two groups are on the opposite side. You call it E isomer. So now take a quick screenshot of this picture, and you have to find out whether they are in the S, following the S or R configuration. So the method is very simple. You will use the CIP rules here. You will give priorities to all the substituent present, and then you will check the direction of rotation, whether it is clockwise or anti-clockwise. If you find 1, 2, 3 in the clockwise direction, this is the R isomer, and if the 1, 2, 3 are in the opposite direction, this is the S isomer. So that is all from my side for today's lecture, and these are the references which I used to prepare this lecture. So thank you so much, everyone.